Alan Davidson came on the program, talked about his memories of F.S. Trueman. In a moment, I'm going to get on to Richie Benaud, who's in the United States at the moment, so we'll talk to him in a tick and get his memories of Freddy as well, because Richie played against him, of course. He knew him very well off the field, and in fact they were alongside one another in the commentary box for quite a while, so I think Richie's seen just about every facet of Freddy Trueman. Let's have a listen to the great man himself. This is Freddy Trueman talking about his career.
Gentlemen, good evening. Sounds as though we've got David Shepherd in already. Of course, I love the great game of cricket. I always have done. I've been in it now for 30-odd years, since I was a little boy bowling at a dustbin lid. And I really enjoyed it, because I think it is the greatest game that's ever been invented. I've been a very lucky man when you look at it. I mean, if anybody had tried to sit down and write my story of my life, it is a fairy story, really, the way it happened and the way I went round this wonderful world. I think I've been round it now something like about 18 times, all to do with cricket. And being a Yorkshireman, you know, most of the time, and travelling with the MCC paying, I mean, what a thought. In some of the exotic places I've played in, like Edinburgh and Belfast. And then joining the RAF and becoming big time, I played in places like Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Enschede, into Germany, in places like Gütersloh, Buckeberg, Hanover, Hamburg, Bad Oeynhausen, these wonderful places. I played cricket in places like Fiji. You know, they used to come out to field in single file in their grass skirts. What great people. I used to laugh even more when they were batting, because they used to have the grass skirt on. I mean, you never go look underneath, so I don't know whether they wore a ball. But they used to come out with gloves, a bat, pads, and no boots. Consequently, I learned to bowl the Yorker. But what lovely, hospitable people, wonderful people. And then I went to New Zealand, and it was shut. And then to places like Ceylon and Singapore, you know. And in Singapore, you see the 8th wonder of the world. You see 2 Australians in a bar with mouth shut. And then you go to India once. Who'll ever forget it? I don't care if your stomach is made of concrete, their food will get through it. 2 weeks in India, you walk around with the cheeks of your ass so tight together you couldn't get a tram ticket up it. What a place. Do you know, gentlemen, you go for a swim and you get bitten by a water snake and you die in 9 seconds. After 3 weeks, you go looking for one. What a great time. I think I've been to the West Indies something like about 8 different times. Who'll ever forget 1959-60? I won't, and neither will the West Indies. Go to Jamaica, the north coast of Jamaica. What a wonderful, beautiful place. Ocarius, Tower Isle, Runaway Bay, Discovery Bay, Montego Bay. What a superb piece of country it is. I was lying on the beach at Tower Isle one day with the inky blue Caribbean lapping my feet, sipping an iced cold gin and tonic, watching the dusky maidens as they swayed to market with their baskets on their heads singing their calypsos. When my whole tour was shattered, a shadow cast across me. I looked up, it was my captain, Peter May. I knew something was wrong. He said, "Frederick." I said, "Captain." He said, "I've got some bad news for you." I said, "What's that?" He said, "You're playing in the next test." I said, "Why?" He said, "There are 9 fit and you're one of them." Now, when you go to the West Indies to play cricket, it's something different, gentlemen, something you've never seen or experienced before. It is their national game. They are cricket fanatics. When there's a test match on at Trinidad, the ground holds 27,000 and there are usually 33,000 in. with another 14,000 in the trees trying to get a glimpse. Fabulous. The noise is magnificent. I'll never forget that test match, and neither will they. The first thing that went wrong, our captain, Peter May, won the toss. The second thing, after deliberation, we batted first on a good wicket. Third thing that went wrong, we declared at 587 for 7. It can only happen to one man, it can only happen to Freddy Trueman. I lost a 100 quid good conduct bonus and we were only batting. I was sitting in the dressing room in my most favourite position when I saw one of the funniest things, gentlemen, I've ever seen on a cricket field, something that I will take to my grave. What a sight. I saw Peter May hit a straight 6 into a palm tree and 14 West Indies fell out.
The wit and wisdom of the great Freddy Trueman. One of the many functions that he attended as a guest speaker. He was in great demand as a speaker, and you can see why. A man full of good humour and wonderful remembrances of his time as a cricketer, every minute of which he enjoyed, I've no doubt about that. We talked to Alan Davidson a little earlier about Freddy. With me now is one of Australia's all-time greats, and a man who played against Freddy on the field, was a great mate off the field, and also shared the broadcasting box for a while as well. Richie Benaud, currently in Florida in the United States. Richie, good to talk to you.
And a very good morning to you, Frank, and nice to speak with you.
What are you doing in Florida, Richie, may I ask?
There is a cricket club in Sarasota in Florida, of which I'm the patron.
Ah, really?
We've come across as part of our very pleasant duties to attend one or two functions, and very, very enjoyable it is too. It's hot and wet here, and it's assisted my golf game a little bit as well.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're having a good time. That's great. Richie, Freddy Trueman, you would have many golden memories of the great man, I'm sure.
Well, the first thing about Freddy Trueman was that he was a great bowler. That was before you came to the realisation that he was also a wonderful character, and as you heard from some of those excerpts from his speeches, a lovely dry sense of humour as well. But being a great bowler is the most important thing, because you don't get the other things that come along unless you've got some sort of ability to go with it. And Fred, when he started off in 1952 against the Indians, he went through them very, very quickly, and we were there in 1953 holding the Ashes, and Fred was very much responsible for England getting them back after what must have seemed an eternity. And that was in the Oval Test match of 1953. And I met him there for the first time, watched this flawless bowling action, which he'd copied from Ray Lindwall. Lindwall was his idol as a bowler, and he wanted to have an action similar to Ray Lindwall, and to be able to use the away swinger in the same way as Raymond did. And Fred played in that final Test match. He was doing national service at the time, and he took 4 wickets in the Australian first innings, and Laker and Locke bowled us out in the second innings. But it was Fred's burst of great fast bowling that did the trick for Len Hutton, the skipper, at the start of the game.
Now, this was the young Fred, the young national serviceman. Had the Freddy Trueman persona start to emerge at that stage, or was he a fairly quiet character?
He was quiet enough, but he was still dry and sharp and very much to the point. Australia played combined services towards the end of the tour in 1953, and it was on a very flat Kingston track, Kingston just outside London, and Fred was the opening bowler, and the team was captained by a Major General, someone or other, whose name escapes me at the moment, and Fred got none for 100. And it was a 2-day game. Miller played, he got a double century, and Colin Ingleby Mackenzie was in the opposition as well. He was a midshipman in the Navy. Fred was in the Air Force. And the Major General was very dissatisfied with Fred's performance, and there's Miller, Ingleby Mackenzie, Trueman and myself standing outside the marquee having a beer when the Major General strode up to Freddy and he said, "Trueman," he said, "I've come across here to tell you that I'm extremely disappointed with what you've done in this match. You haven't bowled fast, you haven't bowled as though you're bowling for England, and I want to tell you it'll be the last time you ever play for combined services." And Fred's reply to that was he looked straight at the Major General and he said, "You're right there, Sunshine. I'm being demobbed tomorrow."
I didn't think it'd break his heart anyway. Oh dear, oh dear. You can't beat the British services, can you, though? They know how to behave.
Indeed. Yeah.
Richie, when you first batted against him in a test match, what was that like?
Well, he was not only a good bloke, and it was always a pleasure to play cricket against Fred because of the type of character he was, but that pleasure was tempered a bit by the difficulty in playing him. I mentioned that he concentrated on Lindwall as a model and used Lindwall's guidelines as well, and one of those was to be able to bowl perfect outswinger, and that was Fred's big strength. After he made his debut against India in 1952 and was heard to say he bowled out 4 of the Indians for nothing at Headingley, and he walked up to Alec Betts, the very experienced player. He said, "Alec," he said, "you just keep them quiet at your end and I'll pick up the wickets at the other." Well, then we got to 1963. Now, Fred's been playing 11 years then, and I saw him turn in some of the greatest bowling I'd ever seen in Test cricket there, in the main with his away swinger. And the West Indies were touring. It was my first year with BBC Television, and I had the pleasure of watching Fred get 11 wickets at Lord's, and then he got another 10 in the next Test match at Edgbaston. And it was the outswinger that did the trick all the time. And he got an Australian for his 300th Test match wicket. That was Neil Hawke. And that was in 1964, and I'd retired then, was working as a journalist and television commentator. But Fred was difficult because he kept taking the ball away from the bat. He had a good in-cutter and in-swinger as well, and he bowled at genuine pace.
Richie, just refresh my memory on this one. There's something that tells me that he performed very well against Australia in one particular test match in England, but he ran on the wicket a lot and scuffed the wicket up, which I think probably helped you, if this is the test I'm thinking of, and he was dropped for the next match. Am I on the right track there?
Well, you're on one of the right tracks, Frank, not the completely right one.
Right.
I'll tell you what happened. We played a match at Headingley on a pretty ordinary pitch, and Fred knew enough about bowling to be able to say to Peter May that he'd picked up wickets in the first innings, but in the second innings, he said to Peter May that he wanted to cut his pace down and bowl cutters, which he did, and he picked up another 6 wickets there and bowled really well, but much reduced pace. And it was in the following game at Old Trafford that he scuffed up the pitch and was dropped. But in that game I'm talking about now at Headingley, he knocked me over. I got a pair in the match. Duck in the first innings in orthodox fashion, LBW to Fred. Yeah. And in the second innings, won the jag back from outside off stump and knocked my off stump straight out of the ground. And at the close of play, Fred, as he always did, came into the dressing room, beer in hand, and he walked over and he put his arm around my shoulder and he said, "Son," he said, "don't worry too much," he said, "about losing your wicket in that second innings out there this afternoon. That was an absolute cracker of a ball. It would have knocked over an even half-decent batsman."
The sense of humour was always there. Richie,
it was in the following game at Old Trafford where we came from nowhere on the last day, and one end of the pitch had been scuffed up, not so much by Fred, although Fred was very much blamed for it. Ted Dexter did a bit of it because he bowled in so close to the stumps, and the other one was Jack Flavel. And they played Jack Flavel in the game at the Oval, but Fred was dropped for that, and he always had the blame for the holes in the pitch, but it wasn't totally Fred's fault.
Right, I'm glad we've cleared that up.
Yeah, partly his fault because he was one of the England bowlers who did it, and it was in that match the night before the last day. I went across to talk to Ray Lindwall to ask him about the merits of bowling round the wicket, because leg spinners had never bowled round the wicket up to then. But I was looking at those holes in the pitch and wondering what might be the effect if I was coming around the wicket. Lindwall's answer to me was, "Well, if you're in trouble, son, it's going to be worth a try, but you better get it right or they'll kill you." So as it was, we bowled them out on the last day, and it was in the main due to bowling around the wicket and Lindwall's advice So Fred had a hand or a foot in it, Frank.
Right. That was the day when Dexter looked like taking us apart.
Dexter did take us apart.
He did take us apart.
76,
yeah.
and he
That's
kept
right.
smashing Slasher Mackay out of the ground, and that came after Alan Davidson and Graham McKenzie had put on 98 for the last wicket to give us an opportunity of a victory. Dexter looked as though he was taking it right away from us.
That's right. Yes, I listened to that game on the radio because we didn't have the direct telecast, of course, in those days. So I remember that one well. Richie, Freddy as a commentator, what was he like?
Well, Fred was a radio commentator. I didn't work much with Fred on television. BBC, for whom I worked for 36 years from 1963 onwards, they had their Test match special as well. So Fred was working for that. Fred was very direct, exactly as he'd walk into the room and say exactly what he thought about something or some aspect of the play during the day. Well, he did the same over the air, and he got the reputation of being critical, which I suppose you could say he was, but he was also accurate. And he stopped doing radio commentary, then he came back to it again, and then he stopped again, and that was 3 or 4 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. Richie, thank you very much for your time today. I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate talking to you. And enjoy yourself in Sarasota.
Thank you very much indeed, Frank, and it's very nice to talk to you again. From all this distance, it's always nice to talk to old fellow police roundsmen.
Ah, yes, that's right. We'll never forget that. We've we bumped into a few old coppers and a few old lags in our time.
We certainly have, and very nice to talk to you today.
You too, Richie. Thank you very much again.
Okay, Frank.
All the best to you.
Yes.
One of Australia's greatest Test cricketers and Australian captain, Richie Benaud.